My name's Peter Bedard, and I think life should be fun. I am an author, I am a speaker, I am a therapist. I work with lots of people with addiction, anxiety issues, and I got a new book coming out that you want to get called Billy and the Anxiety Monster.
What is the soul?
For me, the soul is a spark of the divine, a shard, an energy of the divine that it lives in every single one of us. The soul is connected in two different ways. There's the soul that's deep inside of ourselves that we're born with, no matter what is happening in our lives. We can move away from that soul in life, but that soul is always going to be there. It is the spark of the divine itself. I also think that the soul is connected to a larger soul, a higher soul. Some people call it an overlay. The soul is that energy that is projecting into the physical world, into this holographic universe. It is a opening that there is an opening that we can create for the soul to come in more and more and to take form in our lives. The most important thing that I've found for myself is just understanding that the soul is an eternal being.
Is a soul born? Does a soul die?
The soul isn't born, and it certainly doesn't die. It is that eternal energy that lives in each and every one of us that takes on this incarnation that you're currently looking at right now, this meat suit, this energy of the physical form. The soul is eternal. And I think that's really important to recognize because so many people have a fear of death. And as somebody that's died before, sure, on the human level, there's lots of things I think that's on a human side and a spiritual side. On the human side, yeah, sure, death is it's not even an unknown. For many of us, it's an unknown. Death can be an unknown. And the unknown can be scary or frightening. And yet, the soul just goes on and on. For me, that soul, as I said before, is an expression of the divine. It is the divine of itself taking form in the human body. And I think that God is getting to know itself through us. And so as we come from the divine, Father, Mother, God, whatever your understanding is, that subconscious energy of the divine comes into the earth, becomes conscious in this place where we are as human beings to understand and learn and grow and actually give experience to the divine.
What's the difference between a young soul and an old soul?
A young soul is probably somebody that maybe doesn't remember, doesn't have that wisdom yet. They haven't called upon those past experiences yet. They're not channeling or bringing those propensities from past lives or understandings or growth or whatever it is into this physical experience. And there are people who come in with a lot of information. And those people that come in with a lot of information, remembering a lot, that's what we would call an old soul. So on the human perspective, a young soul and an old soul, underneath that, they're really all just souls. There is no young, there is no old. They are all just experiencing life. And on that human experience, they may come in to maybe not be have as much wisdom, because that wisdom might get in the way of the lesson that they're learning in this life. And if they come in as a young soul, then there's like an innocence, there's a receptivity that may not be there if they come in as an old soul.
What is the soul's relation to Source/God?
So what is the relationship between the soul and God? God and soul are, in my understanding, the same thing. The soul is a part of God as the wave is part of the ocean. So the soul isn't the comprehensive allness of God, but the soul is a part of all of that. And so God is this vast thing, understanding itself by putting its energy, its awareness, its consciousness into the human being that gets to understand that they are God. We live in this world where we have free will and we have an opportunity to pull away from God. And for me, that's what I think sin is. I don't think sin is a thing necessarily. I think sin is more of a behavior. You can either move closer to the divine or you could move further away from the divine. So many times, because of traumas or anxieties or addictions, we close our hearts and we try to protect ourselves. And that act, for me, especially as a therapist, is the removal of ourselves from the connection with the divine.
What's the purpose of life on the physical plane?
I think the purpose of a human being is to be a greater and greater expression of the divine. That is your purpose. So a lot of people are running around saying, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? And I've been guilty of this too. What am I supposed to do with my life? If you are living your life, period, you are an expression of the divine. You are fulfilling your purpose. That's it. Now you can have an individual purpose as well. And on the global sort of cosmic level, there's the global purpose of God understanding itself, God becoming aware of itself in the many billions, trillions of ways that human beings and I think other experiences on other planets and other worlds are also getting to know themselves as that wave, as that emanation of the divine from the ocean. The wave from the ocean is not the ocean, it is the wave, and it is an expression. So there is an individualism as well as a global drive, a global direction that we are all going towards in that creation. We are created by the Creator. The universe is setting up the ability for us to come into the world. And we get, with the paradigm that is created of this earthly plane, we get to then create that life. So there is, again, an overseeing purpose to what I believe all of humanity is. And that overbeing purpose is to bring more of the divine with every breath, every day, in every way, into the world. And how do you do that is entirely up to you. We are co-creators. We are facilitators in the world. It becomes a very important process because many of us are creating through default. We're creating because we don't know, and we're waiting for the universe to tell us who we're supposed to be. And I think that we've got it completely wrong. The universe is saying, go be you. Go be me in a way. The universe, divine goddess is saying, go be me in the world. Go be me in the world through you. You take the energy of me and express that energy through you in the wonderful particular way that is your voice, that are your thoughts, that is your body, that is your experience. Go dance me, go live me into life. And we get to do that. And people make the mistake of thinking that they're supposed to be told how to do it. But what really is needing to happen, and again, this is one of the things I have to remind myself of all the time, is that the universe just has a blank sort of canvas in the sky. And it's waiting for us to fill it out because it's always saying yes to us. The universe is always saying yes. And so when you create as that individual expression, as you create and say, I want to do this, the universe says yes. And then the universe, and I think all the energies in the universe that are there to support us, whether you understand them as guardians or angels, or aliens, or ancestors, or spirit guides, or spirit animals, they're all there then to support us in that creative activity. When people talk about the divine, I'm going to roll up here. When people talk about the divine as being this overlord that is dictating and commanding the chosen or the not chosen, which I think is just an awful thing to say that, oh, I love you, but I don't love you. That experience. That's not how I understand the divine. And that's why when I talked in the beginning about the divine actually being predominantly an unconscious energy of love, of beauty, of perfection, of harmony, of peace, that is the divine, and it's getting to know its shadow. It's getting to know its pain. It's getting to know life on this planet. This is a place where it can understand itself in the thousands of iterations of its being. When I think about the divine, I don't think about it as this big fat white guy up in the sky that's judging me. I moved very far away from that understanding. It wasn't right for me when I died and went on the other side. That was not what was there. And when I go into my heart in my meditations, or I sit in that stillness, or I observe the world and I look for the beauty that God is, that's when I feel closer to God, and I call forward that energy, and I get to become more God-like. And I just forgot what your question was. You can edit that one.
Many people experience challenges while living in a body. Does the soul seek such challenges, and if so, why?
Many of us do experience challenges when living in a body. I can attest to that in my own life. Not that the experience and challenges in my body have been better or easier than other people. Really, I'm now grateful. I may not be in the moment, but I look back at that experience, say when I was killed. I look back at that experience and I look back at it now as a blessing. I look back at it as something I would never change. Would never change that experience. I would never take away those painful nights, those dark nights of the soul where I was arguing with God and telling God that I was going to kill myself. I look at those experiences now and I am so grateful for them, because those experiences bring out my humanity. Those experiences help me connect with people. Those experiences taught me to love deeper than I think I ever could. And maybe I was a young soul and I needed those experiences to teach me or to call me into being an old soul. Those experiences facilitate my being more and more in God's presence. They actually brought me closer to God. It's not the happy, happy joy things that, for me, I know some people it can be, but those things don't necessarily bring me closer to God. But my pain has brought me closer to God. Absolutely. I think all of those roles are what I would call a form of pain or a form of suffering. And we either become overwhelmed by suffering and it takes us down and we never get up. And I've seen that happen with some people, unfortunately. And then there are those of us who experience suffering or look at the role of somebody, an abuser, doing something to me, to you in your life. And we have an opportunity to overcome it and to become even greater, to become even bigger, to become an even larger expression of the divine, to hold love even more powerfully. We all, again, have a purpose in this world as we are. And I truly, truly come back to that all the time, that pain will either take you down or lift you up. And it's a choice that you can make. And so I'm encouraging anybody who may be listening to make that choice, to rise above the situation, to step into that alignment with the divine. I know it's hard, believe me. I'm a human. I have to remind myself to do these things, unfortunately, pretty regularly. And I know when I do, my life expands. And I'm so grateful for that. And I trust that whoever's watching this will too.
Do we have soul groups that we incarnate with across different lifetimes?
We incarnate with soul groups and soul families. So soul groups are larger groups of people that you may only run into a few times. Somebody that brings something to your life or takes something away from your life or teaches a lesson, but there may not be a full contact. Maybe in one life there was a much more intense contact, and that's why they're part of the overall large group. Within those groups, I like to think that we have these soul families, that there are these souls. I don't want to say people, because although they're in present people form, they may not always be in lifetimes. And that the soul family does incarnate together. We make a deal to teach each other things, to learn from each other. And we learn from each other, maybe as a parent one time, as a child another time, as a lover or a brother, a sister. These soul families are these deep families that are connected not by the human family of these labels of brother, sister, mother, father, that type of stuff, but they're connected energetically in this web-like experience where we have agreed to teach each other things. Like I would want to go to my soul family, let's say before I incarnate, and say, hey, I want to learn absolute unconditional love. And for me to do that, I need you to betray me. Now, on a human level, what an awful thing to say, right? I want you to hurt me. I want you to abuse me. I want you to betray me. And I would want to go to that soul family member to teach me that lesson, that intimate other that I know I am part of and connected with. And I'd want them. I look at some past relationships, let's say, and those relationships on a human scale, they've not been, there's a couple of them that's not been so wonderful. And yet, that person is still part of my soul family. I think we've incarnated before. I think we've had lives together before, and we're working things out in this dance through lifetimes. And I think eventually we get to, with some people, release them. There is a deep love that is present that I particularly feel when I meet one of my soul family members. And it's different than meeting part of my soul group, and it's different than meeting someone I've never met before.
Do spirit guides or angels assist us?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think the divine put us in this world without any support. So yes, there are. When I had my death experience, I met one of them, and it was one of those family soul people, the energies, beings that I met when I went to the other side. When I saw this person on the other side for the first time, I felt like my heart was ripping out of my chest in this ecstatic love, in this ecstatic experience. And yet my brain, my consciousness, I guess I could say, was saying, who is this person? Why am I feeling this way? And yet there was this just explosion of love, of energy, of connection. And other people have been able to verify them for me, which is so interesting. If anybody out there can see these things, I got these two enormous angels that are almost always with me. I want to say always with me. And like a little cherub angel. I have this angelic energy that is always with me. I also have some animal energy that is always with me, like a spirit animal thing. I believe that we call upon these guides. These guides are actually here to serve us. Their entire purpose, from my experience, is that they are here to be of service. And so don't wait for them to intervene. I do believe they can in some very rare exceptions, but we have to ask them. And the word ask that we use in the English language comes from another language that the word ask actually is translated as command. Isn't that interesting? So you don't ask for help, you command. Command your spirit guides, your beings that are there to love, to support, to care for you. Give them marching orders, give them direction. Tell them what you want and exactly what that looks like. Give them that experience, and they will then step up. They can, because we have free will again. They can't just sort of do things for us without being commanded, ordered, or asked, right? We have to go to them and say, I would like to create this life. And then we have to communicate with them what that life is like, what it feels like, what it looks like, what it sounds like, our vision for that life, and then let it go and let them bring it to us. So yeah, absolutely. We have an entourage. Every single human being on this planet has an entourage of guides, of angels, of fairies, of whatever you understand them as. They are there, they are loving you, and they are supporting you, even in this moment now, and especially in any dark moments that you may be going through.
What is the veil of forgetting and why do we need it?
Ah, the veil of forgetting. This one frustrates me on my human side because I want to remember. I want to have all that knowledge. I want to pull from it. Like, I want to be a Akashic record expert and go into the archives and gather that information. And yet we forget. I think that this veil is important because if we are going to live an individualized life and live that life with a sense of beingness in that life, 100% invested in that life, then the veil needs to be there. Because if we're always pulling from the past and going beyond the curtain and piercing the veil and then bringing that experience back, we're not going to have a true experience. It's kind of like knowing what's in the present before you open it, like in a package, right? It kind of ruins the surprise. And so the veil has to be there in order for us to have that singular experience in its most pure form, to be able to learn the specific lesson that comes from that. So the veil, I think, is really, really important.
Discuss the role of free will in a given incarnation.
I love that we have free will. I love that experience. It was one of the things I learned in my crossing over to the other side. And in free will, if we are truly to have free will, we can choose to move away from the divine or we can choose to move closer to the divine. We can experience unexpected things. And that's exciting to me because if everything's already predetermined and everything's already laid out and everything's already done, why am I bothering? And so there can be accidents. There can be happy accidents. There could be bumping into each other. There could be not so great experiences. Again, free will makes life exciting. Free will gives that quality of discovery, of exploration. And without it, I don't think we would have that. If there wasn't free will, then I think that I don't think the universe would be able to discover itself. I don't think true creativity could exist without free will.
Is life on the physical plane an illusion?
Is life in the physical world an illusion or a dream? And I want to say absolutely. It's a real dream, though. We live in a holographic universe. I've said it before that I think this world is a projection of the divine into form. I love when I was a kid and I was studying philosophy, there was a philosophy of of candleness, I think it was called. I don't remember what my professor told it. But this idea that you're in a cave and the cave takes a corner and it turns, but you're just looking down the cave. And somewhere around that corner is a candle. And the candle is behind a chair. And the reflection of the chair is on the wall of the cave. But it's a candle. So, the shadows created by candles, they wave and they flicker and they move and they do all different types of things. And I think that is chairness. That is like the experience of this world. There is something, our highest self, our highest purpose, the divine as us, I don't know, that is being projected into physical form. And I may not be able to see it, like I'm looking down that cave and I can't see around the corner, but I can see a reflection of it. And just in that philosophy, that chair could take on millions of different forms. There are how many different chairs, and which is the real chair? Which is the real reality? They all are real. They all are potentials that are collapsing into this experience from the quantum world. They're collapsing into physical form. I love the idea that we are these co-creators in the world. Our thoughts and our feelings come together and create that collapse. They come together and create that experience. And free will allows us to maybe not have such good thoughts and maybe not have such good feelings, which then come together and collapse into reality and create maybe not such a good life. And yet at any moment, we can choose to have a different thought and we could choose to have a different feeling. And so we can start practicing that thought of joy. We can start practicing that feeling of joy, and we can let those come together and collapse into the world. When we consciously co-create in that way, that is when, again, I think we are living our true life purpose. Going back to that question, we are living from our heart. We are co-creating in the world. We are using the ability of free will to choose a different course, to create a different life. We are divinely bringing that experience of the divine into physical form.
What is death?
When we leave our bodies, it's just, our bodies are, I think I said it's a meat suit. Our bodies are just a form that we occupy to have the life soul experience. So when we're done with that experience, our bodies are discarded. They're beautiful, amazing things to appreciate and love and care for and cherish and honor. And when we're done with them, they get to go back into the earthly experience. Our souls then get to go someplace else, but the body gets to be released.
Is there such a thing as hell?
I don't believe in hell. I don't believe in hell in any shape, way, or form. I just don't believe it. I don't believe we're punished. I don't believe that God, the universe, the divine, the goddess herself is in any way a punishing God. I don't. And I do think that we can create our own personal hell. So I can do something that may be atrocious, horrible, abusive, mean, and cruel to the world or other people, and I'm going to be held accountable for that. I don't think I'm going to be punished for it, but I do have to atone for it. And I may have to have another life to actually create maybe the opposite. You know, I think that sometimes we as souls may sometimes put the pendulum too far into the dark. You know, we go to that dark side, we go to that experience. I don't think there's any being that is saying, I don't believe in that big, white, fat, punishing God that is then doing that hellacious experience to the individual. I do believe that there is accountability. I do believe in the basic concept of karma, that what comes around goes around. I do believe that a life review thing happens each lifetime. I do believe that we have the opportunity to make up for things.
Where is heaven?
I have no idea where heaven is. I do know that when I died, I went to a place that I would call heaven. I don't have a clue where it was. I know it wasn't, if it was this experience right now, I'm not aware of it being around me. It could be happening right now in this moment, right here. I don't know where heaven is. I don't even know if heaven's the right word for this amazing, beautiful, incredible, blissful place that I got to visit. I know that I'm going to go back to it. I know that it's home. I felt that draw. I felt that experience. I felt that belonging when I was there. It's one of the most beautiful experiences ever. And as a side note, I believe that my death experience was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the absolute best thing that ever happened to me. I have never felt so one, so connected, so loved, so blissed out, and yet present and conscious. I was high without being on any, without any other reason to be high except to just be home. And that was heaven. That was the emotional experience of heaven. I don't know where it is. I know it lives in my heart. I know it's connected to my soul. I know my soul has a place there. I know I've been there. But do I know where heaven is? I can't even say I really understand what it is, let alone to have a geographic location. But I do know that place, and I do know that it is part of me.
Where is God?
Where is God? God is here. God is in this moment right now. God is inside you, me. It's inside you. It's this floor. It's this room that we're in. It's these lights. God is everything. There is nothing that is without God. It's that old saying of can't see the forest through the trees, right? We can't see God, and yet we are in God. We are held in the consciousness of the divine. There is no escaping it. It is who we are. It is every breath. It is every fiber and tissue of our being.
What's the secret to remembering who we really are?
I think when we allow the human brain, there's the brain that's the mind, and there's the brain that is the brain. There's the consciousness and the biological organ of the brain, right? When we allow the biological organ of the brain that I like to refer to as the critical mind, when we allow that part to become quiet, the part that's always trying to analyze, it's always trying to keep us safe, it's a wonderful thing. It keeps us safe, it protects us, and yet it can keep us from knowing ourselves. So when we allow that part of the brain to relax, to step outside, I often say that to this part of me. That side of me, I have to say, hey, I really appreciate your protecting me. I really appreciate your logic. I really appreciate your reasoning skills, all that kind of stuff. But right now, you're not helping me do what I want to do. So I love your protection. Can you stand in the corner or step outside? I'm right here. You can come in if there's ever a problem. And when I get that part of my brain, that biological gray matter part of my brain to step aside, and I can shut that critical mind, or I could get it to be quiet, not shut it off or tell it to shut up, but just get it to be quiet. When I can do that, then I can connect more with spirit, with soul itself, with my soul. I recently allowed myself to do that because sometimes I have a difficult time doing it at times, and sometimes it's really easy. I still do it anyway, but I was in a meditation, and in that meditation, I got a very clear message. The message was to stop piercing the veil, right? That really profoundly affected me because I've lived so much of my life. I was that person in growing up that was in the leaves, in the branches, in the tree. I wasn't very grounded. And that was a message for me to restore that balance. And so that's one way, is to allow that critical brain, the critical mind, to step aside. I also go into my heart. My heart thinks. And when I let my heart lead the way, not my brain, when I trust my heart and I listen to my heart and I let my heart lead the way, my heart have that passion, that love, that desire, right? My potential. I let my potential lead the way. Then my brain steps just right behind it. And my brain gets to say, oh, I see that passion. I see that love. I know how to make that happen. I know the steps that I can do. I know the emails I need to send or the things I need to do to go and bring that desire into being. And when I do that, my intuition pops up, that little voice inside me that says, turn right, turn left. And so now we're all working together as this tight unit, moving and navigating through life. Whereas when my head was leading the way, I was joking earlier, I was telling a friend of mine earlier that there was somebody that I had made a list. I wanted to be in love, and I had all this list of things, right? They had to be a particular gender and age and color, and they had have a particular education and background and family and blah, 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 blah. Check the boxes, right? And I met somebody that checked all those boxes. And my head was like, oh, I have to be with this person. I have to marry this person. They're everything I've always said I wanted. But it came from my head. And my heart, it wasn't interested. My heart had no interest at all. And there was no inner guidance, inner compass, because I was so dominating everything by my head. And so when I was able to pull back and say, you know what, my heart, it's not into this. My heart isn't passionate about this experience, this person, this way of being. And when I restored that leadership and I put my heart in front and I let my head support it and my intuition guide it, that is the experience when I get the most from the divine. It's not necessarily meditation, but I think meditation can create that experience. And when we do that, the world opens up and we get to know ourselves and the divine even more intimately, our lives, our past, our soul, whatever it is.
Is there a positive message or message of hope you'd like to leave us with?
Well, I want to start by saying that who we are is God. Who we are is an expression of the divine. It is the wave that is part of the ocean, that comes from the ocean. That is who we are. Everything that God is, you are. God is love, you are love. God is beauty, you are beauty. God is whole, you are whole. God is perfect, you are perfect. God is complete, you are complete. As you are, that is the truth. So my message of hope is that you are absolutely loved. And there is no other possibility. There is no other way. So don't ever let anybody tell you you are less than, you are unworthy. Don't ever let anybody put any more of those thoughts in your head, any more of their own shame that they're handing to you. Don't take it. Let it fall on the ground. It doesn't belong to you. It's not yours. And so I want to remind you that your absolute truth is that you are love. You are loved, and there's no way of getting around it because you live in the consciousness of the divine, and the divine is love itself.